The night we first fought, I thought it was love. The shouting, the tears, the slam of the door, the sudden rush of him coming back, holding me, apologizing with lips more than words. It felt like fire, and I told myself, this is passion. This is proof that what we have is real. But looking back now, I can see it clearly. That wasn't passion, that was pain, and for years I confused the two. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And that's what I did. I mistook my patterns for passion. I mistook chaos for chemistry. I mistook pain for proof. I stayed, not because it was love, but because it was familiar. The highs felt so high, the lows so unbearable that I believed the intensity was evidence of something deeper, when really it was evidence of my own wound. Before I go deeper, let me ask you something. Have you ever mistaken pain for love? Have you ever stayed in a relationship that hurt you because you believed the hurt was proof it mattered? If you have, tell me in the comments, and tell me where you're watching from, because stories like this remind us we're not alone. I used to think real love had to burn, that if it didn't break me, it wasn't strong enough. That the jealousy, the arguments, the tears were all part of being deeply connected. And maybe you've thought that too, that love without chaos isn't love at all. But here's the truth I couldn't face back then. Love isn't supposed to destroy you. Love isn't supposed to leave you begging on the bathroom floor, waiting for the door to open. Love isn't supposed to feel like withdrawal when they leave and a high when they return. Love isn't supposed to leave scars you hide under long sleeves of excuses. That's not love. That's addiction. And addiction is what kept me hooked for years. Carl Jung believed the shadow, the hidden part of ourselves, shows up in who we're drawn to. And my shadow was screaming for healing, but instead of listening, I called it romance. I wrapped red flags in ribbons and called them gifts. I told myself the pain was beautiful because admitting it wasn't would mean facing my own emptiness. So I kept going back, to the fights, to the tears, to the apologies that never lasted, to the arms that held me just long enough to convince me I was safe until the cycle spun again. I thought pain meant passion. I thought suffering meant depth. I thought love had to hurt or else it wasn't real. But now I know. I wasn't addicted to him. I was addicted to the cycle, to the highs and lows, to the way chaos tricked me into believing it was intimacy. That's the beginning of this story. The story of how I mistook pain for passion and why it took me years to finally see the difference. The illusion of passion is powerful. It blinds you, seduces you, convinces you that what you're feeling is rare and precious, when in reality, it's toxic. When we first started, the arguments came like thunderstorms, sudden, heavy, electrifying. He'd accuse me of something small, a text I hadn't answered fast enough, a glance he didn't like, a word he twisted into an insult. I'd defend myself, my voice rising, tears burning at the edges. And then, after hours of silence, he'd return with an apology so intense it felt like a rescue. That apology would melt me. The kiss after the storm felt like oxygen after drowning. My body would shake, not just from the pain, but from the rush of release. And I thought, this is passion. This is what people mean when they say, can't live without you. But what I didn't see was the pattern, the fight, the silence, the reconciliation. It wasn't passion. It was a cycle, a trap. Carl Jung said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. What irritated me about him, his jealousy, his control, his unpredictability, was pointing me to something deeper in me. My own belief that love had to be earned. My own fear of abandonment. My own shadow whispering, if you suffer enough, maybe you'll be loved enough. The truth is, chaos became my drug. The highs after the lows, the relief after the storm. That was the hook. It wasn't him, it was the cycle. And here's the thing about cycles. The more you repeat them, the more familiar they feel. And the more familiar they feel, the easier it is to mistake them for home. I began to believe the pain was proof that we cared, proof that we were different, proof that what we had was stronger than the boring love other people settled for. But what it really was trauma reenactment. Jung believed we repeat the patterns of our wounds until we finally face them. And I was living proof. I mistook the familiar ache for passion because somewhere deep inside, that ache was home. So I stayed, for years, hooked not on love, but on the roller coaster, on the dizzying highs that only came after the devastating lows, on the illusion that the deeper the pain, the stronger the love. Let me ask you something. Have you ever confused chaos for chemistry? Have you ever thought that the one who hurt you most must also love you most, because why else would it feel so intense? That's the lie of pain as passion. It makes you mistake intensity for intimacy. And that lie kept me hooked for years. The cost of that confusion was enormous, because when you mistake pain for passion, you give it permission to stay. You defend it, you romanticize it. You make excuses for it over and over until the excuses start sounding like vows. I know he loves me. Why else would it hurt this much? He wouldn't fight so hard if I didn't matter. This is just what passion looks like. But here's the truth. Passion isn't supposed to leave you trembling with fear. Love isn't supposed to feel like walking on glass. Intimacy isn't supposed to require scars. And yet, I let myself believe it. For years, I defended the pain because I thought it was proof of love. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." That was me. I called it fate. I called it meant to be. But really, it was a script I didn't even know I was following, because here's what pain does when you mistake it for passion. It drains you. It ages you. It silences you. It steals years you can never get back. I spent birthdays apologizing for existing too loudly. I spent holidays pretending our smiles weren't forced. I spent sleepless nights staring at the ceiling, waiting for the next storm to pass. And the worst part, I called all of it love. The cost wasn't just time, it was me. My voice, my joy, my freedom. Piece by piece, the pain took them all. And I handed them over willingly because I thought it was what passion demanded. But passion doesn't demand your disappearance. Real passion builds you. It doesn't burn you down. I remember writing in my journal one night, "If this is love, why do I feel smaller every day?" That was the first time I admitted the truth on paper. But even then, I closed the notebook quickly, as if the words themselves were dangerous. Because if I admitted it, I might have to leave. And leaving felt scarier than staying in the pain I knew. That's the trap. The pain convinces you it's safer to stay than to walk away. Because at least you know this hurt, at least you know this chaos, at least you know this cycle. And so you pay the cost, year after year, until one day the price is too high to ignore. There comes a moment when the illusion shatters, not with fireworks, not with a sudden revelation, but with a quiet, steady realization. This isn't love. For me, it happened on a day that looked ordinary. No screaming, no chaos, no slammed doors, just silence. He was there, but not really. His eyes glazed over, his responses short, his presence heavy but absent. And I felt it, this hollow ache inside me that whispered, "You've been here before. You will be here again. Nothing will change." And for the first time, instead of pushing the whisper away, I listened. Carl Jung said, "Your visions will become clear only when you look into your own heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes." And that's what happened. I looked inside, and I awoke. The awakening wasn't glamorous. It didn't come with clarity all at once. It came with small, undeniable truths, stacking on top of each other until they became too heavy to ignore. Truth. Real passion doesn't leave you anxious, waiting for the next explosion. Truth, real intimacy doesn't break you and call it connection. Truth, real love doesn't make you doubt your worth. So I asked myself, if this is passion, why do I feel so empty? That question was the crack in the wall. And once it appeared, everything else began to crumble. Because the truth is, passion doesn't destroy you, it expands you. Passion makes you come alive, not disappear. I had mistaken volatility for depth, but love isn't measured by how much you bleed for it. Love is measured by how safe you feel inside it, and I wasn't safe. The awakening was painful because it meant letting go of the story I had told myself for years, that what we had was rare, that what we had was worth the suffering, that what we had was passion. But as Jung taught, the psyche pushes for wholeness, even through suffering. My soul was tired of pretending pain was love. My body was tired of carrying scars it couldn't explain. My heart was tired of calling chaos home. So I began to rewrite the script. I started listing the difference between pain and passion. Pain makes you smaller. Passion expands you. Pain silences your voice. Passion invites your song. Pain makes you question your worth. Passion reminds you of it. Pain drains you. Passion fills you. That was my awakening. Passion doesn't burn you alive. It lights you up. And once I knew that, I couldn't unknow it. The hardest part wasn't leaving him. It was leaving the story that told me passion had to hurt, the story that told me chaos was proof of love, the story that told me if I just endured enough pain, I would finally earn safety. That story had me hooked for years. But the day I stopped believing it, everything changed. Because the truth is, love is not supposed to feel like survival. Carl Jung once said, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become." And for the first time, I chose to become someone who no longer confused suffering with romance. I chose to unhook myself. It wasn't easy. Breaking free from pain disguised as passion is like breaking an addiction. The highs and lows carve pathways in your brain, and it takes time to unlearn them. There were nights I missed the chaos, mornings I missed the fire, even when I knew it had burned me. But with each day of clarity, I started to feel something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Peace in conversations that didn't explode. Peace in silence that wasn't punishment. Peace in laughter that didn't come with tears. Peace in myself, because I no longer needed someone else's chaos to feel alive. That's what real love feels like. Not chaos, not pain, not addiction. Love feels like peace. And once you taste that, you realize you'll never go back to mistaking wounds for romance. So this is what I want you to hear. If someone ever made you believe that pain is passion, I want you to know it isn't. If someone ever convinced you that the chaos was proof of depth, I want you to know it isn't. If someone ever told you love has to hurt, I want you to know it doesn't. Love doesn't demand your scars. Love doesn't drain your soul. Love doesn't disappear and return only to keep you hooked. Love builds. Love nourishes. Love holds. I stayed hooked for years because I thought the pain was proof, but now I see the only proof you ever need is how free, how safe, how whole you feel when love is real. So if this story touched you, let me ask you, what's one thing you once mistook for love, but now know was just pain? Write it in the comments. Because naming it is the first step to breaking free from it. And if you're still in the cycle, if you're still mistaking the storm for passion, I want you to remember this. You don't need to bleed to prove you're alive. You just need to breathe. Subscribe if this resonated with you. Because here we don't confuse pain with passion. We tell the truth about what love is meant to be. Share this with someone who's still trapped in the illusion. Sometimes one story can be the mirror that sets someone free. And I'll leave you with Jung's words one last time. Your vision will become clear only when you look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes. I looked inside. I awoke, and I finally saw it. It wasn't passion, it was just pain. and I walked away.